from the Mercy One studio. Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. I'm Kelly Mesher-Collins with the Diocese of Des Moines. It's National Catholic Sisters Week. On today's show, we're visiting with Sister Maureen Leach, who was born and raised in Des Moines. We're going to be talking to her about the Sisters Water Project and much more. But before we get to today's interview, let's find out what's on the Bishop's mind.
Hello, Kelly.
Morning.
So, the march is rolling along here.
Yes.
We'll be approaching those major feasts of St. Patrick and St. Joseph next week. But Sisters Week going along here. And so, but in this year dedicated to St. Joseph, our priests of the Diocese of Des Moines had a chance yesterday to get some little spiritual renewal for themselves on the theme of spiritual fatherhood. Thanks to Joe Stopulos, who talked to us about the fatherhood of St. Joseph, and John Leonetti, reflecting on the complementarity of spiritual and biological fatherhood. So, voice is well known to Iowa Catholic Radio listeners, but they were kind of preaching the word, if you will, to our diocesan priests, and just a chance to kind of refill the spiritual tank and to think about those themes as spiritual fathers and all that in our ministry that we're to be about. So grateful for their opportunity to be with them. So much happening and breaking in the world. We're conscious of last week's visit by the Holy Father to Iraq, something that John Paul II never was able to do. Pope Francis had to delay his visit to this country, which has undergone so much upheaval, and is still a very tenuous place. Christians, prior to the war, there were 1.5 million Christians, Chaldean, Syrian, in union with Rome. The Chaldean Catholics that still have a presence there, but have been decimated down to 150,000 in the wake of the departure after the war, and then I think the ongoing struggle. So the Holy Father going to the birthplace of Abraham, going to Baghdad, the pastors of the churches there, the Cardinal Sacco and others receiving them, celebrating Mass at the Cathedral of St. Joseph. So again, acknowledging this. But other places such as Mosul, which really basically decimated their Erbil and Najaf places were there. And meeting with the Grand Ayatollah, excuse me, I want to put the Spanish pronunciation there, sorry, and fostering that spirit of solidarity, brothers and sisters, in his Fratelli Tutti encyclical also. So moments there to show solidarity, but particularly with persecuted Catholics and Christians there. Can't help but think of my own close friends, George and Samir Tofik, their children Fadi, Zaid, and Farah, who fled in the first Iraq War, came ultimately to Iowa, Chaldean Catholics there, and their children are really much flourishing, doctorates at Iowa State, College of Pharmacy at Iowa. So I've always felt a certain solidarity. And in my young bishop's school, prior to being ordained, with the auxiliary bishop of Baghdad then as well. So a chance to feel that Catholicity of the Church. And I think Pope Francis is shining a light on that also. Sisters Week, we're conscious of the many ways, the diverse religious charisms, and we talked also, obviously, in February, but I think we're going to accent that a little bit more. I noticed that one of the oldest people in the world who survived COVID, Sister Andrée Rondon, 117 years old, now living in Toulon, France, a daughter of charity, just a remarkable woman there. And they said, were you afraid to die? She says, well, I'm happy to be with you, but I would prefer to be with my big brother and grandparents, moving on to the next realm. So she accepts whatever God asks of her as well. We also lost Sister Diane Ortiz, an Ursuline from Kentucky, well known for her time, kind of prophetic, but suffering terrorism and kidnapping when her ministry in Guatemala. She died on February 26th, and who had actually lived with and spent time with our next guest, Sister Maureen Leach, in Guatemala. So she became an advocate for Pax Christi and trying to stop the torture of people by unjust regimes. So The Blindfold Eye, Torture and Truth, her book that she offered to us. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge my own mom, Marilyn. Mom, tomorrow, your 88th birthday. Way to go. Some of the family will be with you. How you have suffered in your own way. And then the following day, my uncle, Monsignor Ralph Symington, her brother, my uncle, a great witness to the joy of the priesthood, living in Friendship Village in Waterloo. So he'll be 85 years old. So hopefully,
way to go to him for him.
Mom doesn't take a drink, but maybe we'll toast her and Uncle Ralph in this way. So grateful for the gift that they are. And again, I think all of us savoring the chance to be with loved ones in whatever way in this COVID time has been made possible.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and in return, we'll welcome Sister Maureen Leach. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Thank you, Big Red Q Quick Print, for underwriting the sports report. Family owned and operated since 1980, Big Red Q Quick Print is a full-service print shop ready to help you with all your printing needs with speed and accuracy. Forms, manuals, brochures, letterhead, envelopes, business cards, custom invitations, design, and bindery. Big Red Q Quick Print, located across from Merle Hay Mall. Online at bigredq-desmoines.com. Big Red Q Quick Print. We make printing easy.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Dowling Catholic Sports is provided in part by Ashworth Vision Clinic. With 2 licensed optometrists, Barbara Sheets, a Dowling graduate, and Dr. Craig Harper, the Ashworth Vision Clinic team provides complete eye exams, contact lenses, glasses, glaucoma testing, and pre- and post-operative care. Ashworth Vision Clinic is located at 60th and Ashworth in West Des Moines. 515-440-4610 or online, ashworthvision.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. This is Kelly Mesher-Collins with the Diocese of Des Moines. On today's show, we're visiting with Sister Maureen Leach, a Franciscan who was born and raised in Des Moines. We'll be talking to her about the Sisters Water Project and much more.
Good morning, Sister Maureen. This is Bishop Joensen. Glad to have you with us during this Sisters Week, but it's not just simply shining a light on vocations, but how your vocation really unfolded in some marvelous ways, but really, I think, with a social justice accent and the opportunity to work with those whom Pope Francis refers to as the peripheral, sometimes the people on the periphery, but, their center, we're on the periphery, so sometimes that's just a matter of subjective reference. But I know your brother. I've come to know your brother, Father Greg Leach, pretty well, and his wry humor, and recently retired last year from St. Mary of Nazareth Parish here in Urbandale after 40 years of active ministry. But his vocational path, he kind of came to that as after working some time in the business world. Was that the case for you, where it wasn't an immediate thing, or did you feel the call to religious life earlier on?
Well, primeramente quiero saludar a todo el pueblo que habla español. Y es un gran placer estar con ustedes. Voy a hacer la entrevista en inglés, pero mucho gusto en saludarles.
Marvelous, yes. So go ahead and translate.
Welcoming everyone. And so I would like to say that my parents, Vernon and Betty Leach, faith was not something that they took for granted in their life. And they both became Catholics as teenagers, so they weren't baptized as children. And both of them were very active in the church and in service to those in need. And at the end of our meal prayer every night, we always said, and make us ever mindful of the needs of others. So I have noticed that all of my brothers and sisters have found ways to be active in service in the communities where they live. And I know that I felt in high school a desire to have God be the center of my life and to have service as a focus. And I thought, I can't do that by myself. I need to be in relationship with others. And that's what kind of attracted me to religious life. And when I was in high school, was a retreat for people interested in religious life. And Bishop Dingman offered his house for the retreat, and that's where I met my first Dubuque Franciscan sisters. But like my brother, I didn't come quickly to religious life. It took me 6 years of pondering after that before I finally joined, and I did a year of volunteer work in a year-long program in Texas before I entered the Franciscans in Dubuque.
And how God used that. It wasn't, that you were being too deliberate, but just God awakening then that passion, perhaps even then, prior to the affiliation with the Dubuque Franciscans then too. Did you, and again, as one who went to public school, but certainly, did you go to parochial school or public school, or how was that?
Yes. I attended a public kindergarten, and then I went to Holy Trinity for grade school and St. Joe's and Dowling for high schools. By the time I went to college, Catholic schools were a little too expensive for me, but I did attend grade school and high school in the Catholic schools.
So you kind of bridged that transition from St. Joe's to Dowling then. Is that right? Or
Yes.
Yeah. And the BVMs didn't get you, huh? They were they working? They tried to recruit you.
We used to say I had mercies for grade school, BVMs for high school, and Franciscans for life.
I love it. So again, I think that really says that we can't overestimate the power of prayer within the home and within the family, that domestic church, and how that has a formative way of opening up one's consciousness and allowing the Holy Spirit to work in so many ways. So eventually affiliating with the Dubuque Franciscans and the whole process of formation that you went through. But before we go into some of how that and the diverse ministries that you were involved in, even now as you've kind of arrived at this point in leadership for your community, back centered in here in Iowa, but still radiating outward. Among your passions is the Franciscan Sister Water Project, something with which I've been privileged to be familiar. Just please kind of talk about that and how both in Tanzania, or as they say, Tanzania, and Honduras, why is this something so essential, and why is it a good fit for the Franciscan charism?
Well, yes, as Franciscan sisters, we all believe in relationship building, and we want to help connect good-hearted people with each other and with the needs out there in the world. And I've been privileged to visit Honduras and help out with our sisters maybe 12 different times that I go for a few weeks a year, and can see the need and the poverty there. And I know that our folks that have gone to Tanzania have felt the same way. And we've been able to accomplish building over, next month we should be completing our 300th well in Tanzania, and we have over 35 water systems in Honduras. And this Sister Water Walk is part of a project, because usually we do Lenten calendars and different projects and go give talks in parishes to inform people about Sister Water, and we haven't been able to do some of that because of the pandemic. So this walk is a way to make people aware of the need that people have for water. I mean, nobody can live without water, and some women have to walk up to 6 hours a day to get water. And we're asking for this project for people to walk 5 kilometers or 3.1 miles, which is a little less than what most people have to walk in other countries to get water. And it's the stories of the people that make me passionate about that. When I hear of a woman saying that she had to get up at 2 a.m. to walk to get water, and then to have to carry that on 40 gallons of water back, and then maybe make another trip later in the day. And sometimes if you don't get there early enough, there's no water left. So those kind of stories touch at your heart and make you want to do something to improve conditions for people.
Indeed, how we take for granted, the clean water and the access to that. And 3.1 miles, maybe kind of like for people in the Des Moines Metro, walking around Gray's Lake. But, how, that massive, and having witnessed that with through the assistance of my cycling buddy, Brian Gilligan there, who's lent a hand, I think, with some of his expertise with the whole project. I don't know how they carry these massive containers of water on there. I mean, these women have these lithe necks, and yet, they're not like the front line of the Hawkeyes or the Cornhuskers or something, but and then children too, carrying water for so much. So to have proximity of clean water just changes the whole quality of life for people, not only in terms of their health, physical health, but the time they're able to devote to other life pursuits, when they have a well right there in their village. So that walk is taking place here in the near future, or is that something on the calendar?
Yes. Yeah. That's going to be March 12th to the 22nd. So because we don't want to gather everybody in a huge group, each person can do it individually whenever they want to. And we specifically designed it to end on March 22nd, which is World Water Day, as we pay attention to the needs for water.
Okay, so go ahead. Oh,
well, it's a way to, we invite people to walking is everybody into their ability. So if you can walk the 5 or 6 kilometers all in one time, that's fine. And if you want to do it in little segments, that's fine too. And we invite people to take a picture of yourself walking, or to carry a sign that says, "I'm walking for Sister Water," and send us those pictures, because that enheartens the people in Tanzania and Honduras when we share them with them. And it also gives us encouragement that other people are learning about the needs.
Marvelous.
And each day, between the 10 days, we have a different theme. So people can go up and listen to a little 1-minute video or see some pictures about Sister Water. One is Walk for Education, Walk for Justice, telling about our water project in the prisons in Honduras. Walk for Health or disease
And so
prevention.
We'll direct
Walk for
people
Life.
to the website for that, and people who want to follow and in solidarity of spirit, that spiritual drink of water, but the chance to support you materially at www.facebook.com/Dubuque Franciscans, or www.osfdbq.org/SWP for Sisters Water Project Donate. So those are 2 ways to reach out, SWP Donate, or the Facebook page for the Dubuque Franciscans. But Sister, you've had such
I have to say that when I'm listening to something on the radio and somebody gives me a bunch of initials, I don't always catch it. So if you didn't catch those, you can just put in your search engine, Sister Water Project, and it should come up. And you can watch a little 12-minute video about the project and see where our different well sites are.
Very good. So you're obviously the teacher, but your ministries have been very diverse. A lot of time spent in Texas as a social worker and interpreter with the National Farm Worker Ministry. Can you tell us about the National Farm Worker Ministry and how this not only your work with migrant workers and their legal status and immigrants too?
Yes. Well, I worked on the Rio Grande Valley on the Mexico border, and one thing I learned is working with the National Farm Worker Ministry, I was assigned to the United Farm Workers. And one thing I learned in organizing with people is that it's not my job to come in and say what people need. So when I would be meeting with the people in the colonias where they live, I would look and I'd say, there's no electricity here. There's people, and the people that have electricity just have a little extension cord connecting to the next house. And I would think, oh, that's going to be the issue that they choose. And when we all spoke, the issue they chose was roads. And I was like, oh, why is that? And they said, well, because the school buses won't come and pick up our children because the roads get muddy. And the most important thing to us is that our children have a better life than we've had. So the first thing we want to do is to make sure we get paved roads. So learning to listen to people first before deciding what projects to take on was an important lesson.
So not just swooping in and like, we're going to do good for you, and here's our agenda, but to really discern with the people and allow them to be your guides in that. That's what I'm hearing. So please continue, Sister.
Right. And another major issue that we had was there was a huge freeze and all the crops were destroyed, and the government was coming in to help the growers and all sorts of other people that were affected. But somehow the farm workers didn't qualify for anything. They weren't qualifying for unemployment comp especially. And I had remembered, because I was filling out about 300 tax forms a year, that people would come in with little piles of pay slips because they would never get a W-2 for their work. So even though they were treated like employees and having to show up at a certain time every day, they were paid like independent contractors. So we were able to do a lot of research and build relationships with people in the unemployment office and different places around the state. And it went to the Texas Supreme Court, and we were able to get unemployment comp offered for farm workers. So that was one of our big projects that we worked on.
as a great advocate, but being able to negotiate the whole bureaucratic apparatus there too, and it took obviously a lot of persistence, and maybe without some of the benefit of the legal assistance as well too. Working conditions for migrant workers, and obviously we begin to think about migrants and their legal status. It's a very thorny matter that obviously has intense feelings on all sides. But citizens, immigrants coming, are they afraid to kind of get on the grid or to be present in this way, and the work and the kind of collaboration that was necessary? How did that go well, or what were some of the particular challenges that you saw?
One of the big challenges was they would have programs that would allow people to come into the country, but they could only work for that specific employer. So if that employer was unjust or wasn't paying them, if they were to leave that place, they had to leave the country. So they had no ability to speak up for their rights. And then, of course, there were a number of people who had entered the country that didn't have documents. And for them especially, it was difficult because sometimes payday would come around and they wouldn't pay them, and there was not much that they could do about it.
And many of these people were actually invited by the companies. Yes, so farm workers also.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Yes, and they would get visa plans. So a lot of times we need the value of people's work to provide food for our tables, but we don't treat them with dignity.
Sister Maureen, I'm going to ask you to pause there, and then we'll come back after the break, all right?
Okay.
All right, you're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Catholic Women Now provided in part by Marr Security, providing security solutions for homes and businesses since 1953. Marr Security is a Catholic-owned family business supplying security systems, access control systems, video surveillance, fire alarm systems, and video doorbells. All alarm systems are monitored out of their monitoring center located in the state of Iowa. Marr Security, 515-244-5660, permarsecurity.com.
Thank you, Dental Associates, for underwriting Dowling Catholic Sports 365. With over 40 years' experience, Dental Associates is a group dental practice with the mission of promoting optimum health and well-being to all patients, providing preventative, restorative, and cosmetic dentistry for the entire family. Message underwritten by Dr. Kenton Gleichman, Dr. Steve Karbaka, and Dr. Ben Nagel. Dental Associates, addressing your smile, needs, and dreams. Online at Des Moines-DentalAssociates.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. We are back with Sister Maureen Leach.
Sister Maureen, and I know you want to put in a plug for that sticker price for the wells at about $5,500. So approachable for some, or some who might want to sponsor that, and to whatever extent that they're capable. But not only just a Lenten almsgiving, but a charitable work that shows our solidarity with our brothers and sisters at different places, Honduras, Tanzania, and other locations. So when we think about, again, the farm workers here, their situation being drawn into the country, and then if they're not being treated justly, other issues, not simply Texas, but things that maybe we may not be conscious of here in Iowa.
Well, not just working with the farm workers, but more recently I worked as a volunteer with the Interfaith Welcoming Coalition in San Antonio. And a lot of people that visited some of the places where refugees were being held and separated from their family members. And we had a number of unaccompanied minors that were in a shelter across the street from the parish I attended that would come to church there. But there's a lot of difficulty with the immigration process and people being able to apply for benefits. In fact, some people that were applying way back when the 9/11 attacks happened got sent back on the list with a 10 or 12 year extra wait in order to get their cases heard to get documentation to live in this country. So it's very complicated because you're not allowed to leave the country if a family member dies or anything to go to a funeral, or it puts you back to the beginning of the list. but often you're not given a work permit either, and you're not allowed to be on public assistance. So it's kind of like people's hands get tied at all different levels.
Mm-hmm. And these would be distinct from people seeking asylum or anything. These are people seeking gainful employment at the initiative of employers or others who are coming here also, so the Interfaith Welcoming Coalition. And obviously then COVID has thrown another whole obstacle in the way for people trying to ascertain their status and how they might land in a place that they can support and provide for their loved ones and for themselves and make a better life for themselves. The advocacy that you go, does it really need kind of legal expertise, or how were faith-based people, Catholic charities or others able to collaborate with the local authorities, or did that not go well?
No. In fact, when we started with the Interfaith Welcoming, the immigration was releasing people until they had their hearings, and they would drop them at the bus station in the middle of the night with little kids, and their bus wasn't for 24 to 26 hours. And so they set up a ministry there to welcome people and bring them to a shelter and give them food and backpacks and everything. But eventually, after negotiating with immigration, they got them to be a little more just about the times of days that they released people, and some other things were accomplished. So there's always a possibility for negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, people need to talk to their government officials when they notice that there's unjust policies and advocate for changes in laws and policies.
Mm-hmm. And even in Iowa, I mean, I think there's for the workers' protection and the safety of workers, for instance, in our meat processing plants. Many of those folks have just recently had the opportunity to receive the vaccine and to be safe in that regard. They weren't necessarily a priority. But as we wind down our time here, Sister, now you're charism, but it sounds like that prayer and that passion in your heart that was awakened, you've been able to fulfill that now in leadership for the Franciscan Sisters of the Holy Family in Dubuque. Now, please give my regards and prayers to all of those women with whom I interacted for many years. And again, they're your bold witness that continues to go forward. So thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting us, and hope everyone has a very good National Catholic Sisters Week, that it's been a good week for you.
This has been another edition of Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen.
You can hear Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen every week on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.